Warm welcome everyone to INHAF's 73rd webinar. Before we begin today's discussion, I will take a few minutes to explain the reason behind Studio INHAF's webinar series. Beginning since June 2020, INHAF began a webinar series known as Rethinking Cities. It is a natural extension of INHAF's earlier work and effort in spearheading an initiative known as Situary or Citizens Urban Initiative. The initiative is based on the challenges foreseen in India's growth story. Worldwide, by the year 2050, we are expecting 2/3 of the world's people to live in urban areas. But the nature of urbanization is complex, with data indicating vast statewide differences even within the country. Sheer numbers, however, demand a different kind of attention. By 2050, India's urban population is expected to be 877 million alone. An important milestone when for the first time, more people will live in our cities and towns than in our villages. Urbanization by itself is not a problem, but managing it adequately is. While the pandemic brought sharply into focus the challenges our cities and its people face, we did not need COVID to realize that India's urban planning and its systems are faltering. With the accelerating pace of urbanization and with it the stresses on housing, infrastructure, livelihoods, the question that keeps coming up is how do we handle urbanization so that we reap the benefits?
Yeah, we lost you. Yeah, we have lost you. We can't hear.
So we can hear.
I'll continue.
Yeah, we can
The
hear.
question that keeps being asked with rapid urbanization is how do we handle the growth so that we reap the benefits of cities as economic centers of economic growth and aspiration without the exploitative instincts and inequities that are inherently present. That is one of the many questions that this webinar series hopes to open up for discussion. Situary or Citizens Urban Initiative is a multi-level, multidisciplinary effort by INHAF and is spearheaded by urban professionals, development thinkers, practitioners, to work on a blueprint that outlines the country's response to the urban challenge. It hopes to achieve three things: reassess India's urban challenge, rethink the Indian city, and reformulate the response in the context of national development challenges. INHAF's view is that for any approach to be transformative, must be located within a collective effort. And with the momentum building around the webinar series, it has been able to feed into these efforts to bring together a supporting constituency and take wider ownership. Till date, the webinar is engaged with over 100 knowledge partners, both national and international, and over 350 urban experts, professionals, civil society organizations, and community groups to share their perspectives on multiple themes. I'd also like to point out that all of INHAF's previous webinars are publicly available and can be accessed through our website or the Facebook page. Today's webinar is the third part of a series on mainstreaming skilled women construction workers. The focus this time being on rights and entitlements. It will discuss the implications of new labor reforms for women, informal and migrant workers in the construction industry, as well as embark on a wider discussion on the rights, entitlements, and welfare framework for informal and migrant workers, and inquire how their rights as citizens and workers can be foregrounded. With that, I'd like to hand over to the anchors for today, Nidhi Batra, founder of Sehreeti Developmental Practices, and Kirtee, Shah, founder and president of INHAF. Thank you.
Ankita, can you allow me to on my video, please?
You can start.
Yeah, now I can. Thanks, Kia. Thank you so much, Kia, for the introduction. So today, I think there's an echo. Can you? So thank you to all the panelists who are here today. And I would like to introduce the subject which INHAF and Sehreeti have been working on. It's largely about, we all are aware that there are women construction workers that we see on the site, and most of them are doing a lot of drudgery work at large. So when INHAF and Sehreeti came together to really look at how can we mainstream women construction workers in not just unskilled drudgery work on site, but really look at them in more productive job roles. A little background to Sehreeti. Sehreeti is an organization which works on participatory planning and skills and sustainable development. And it is in this light that INHAF and Sehreeti have come together to work on this issue. And if you allow me, I'd like to share my screen and give you a little background to this work and today's discussion here. So like Kia mentioned, so today is the 73rd webinar of INHAF, and what is it is the third part series of the work that Sehreeti and INHAF have been doing together on this theme that we call nirmanshramik, and which is looking at mainstreaming women construction workers in skilled job roles. And just to highlight a little context. So like I said, that in the construction industry, which is really the highest employer after agriculture in our country and maybe even the world over, there are more than 35% of women construction workers. And it appears to be quite a surprise. And Kirtee was just mentioning that, recently we went to a meeting in Delhi and we mentioned this number to someone in the industry and they were like, no way, maybe we thought that there are only 5% women in the construction field. But that's not really the case, So there are more than 35% of women who are in the construction workers. Only 5% of those women workers in the construction industry are skilled. So they don't get even opportunities for skill development. And they tend to remain in largely the unskilled work, as we know, in the construction industry. And most of the work that they do is really, they're head holders, like in this picture here. And even though they might be working for a good amount of 15 to 17 hours on the construction site in the day, they're also taking care of their children on the sites, they're taking care of the entire family, and they're carrying such heavy load and doing a lot of manually intensive work on the construction site. And like I mentioned, most of them rather just remain as either helper mason or helper electrician, or a helper plumber is also very, very rare. You'd never see a mason women worker on the site, or you never see a carpenter who's a woman on the site. Very, very few projects that we know would actually have that. There are few works of, civil society, like Seva, Mahila Milan. We had somebody from Kudumshri last time, Archana Women's Center, which are small initiatives, I think, which are trying to promote women in the construction work. But it's not something which has been mainstreamed. It's not something that we see at a common everyday construction site. And that exactly is the question that we are investigating. And why is that is a very big question. And it comes with layers of, the patriarchal system. It comes with layers of looking at how, friendly workspaces are for women. And they probably are similar for many, many sectors. And construction sector is one such. Which is affected by this patriarchal system of women at work. And we are, we are curious to understand that, what can we really do in this sector to break these chains, if we may say? What can, let's say, the policy do? What can the employer do? What can we as, development practitioners do? What can we do as civil society? What is it that can happen to break these chains, really, to allow women to come into the mainstream construction work? And today, like we're saying, that today our discussion is really on rights. It's really on entitlement. So what are the rights that women can actually ask for? What are they entitled to? What is it that we can ask the policymakers to really introduce? So is there some specific thought in our mind, in respect to either thinking about reservation or talking about what already entitlements exist in the BOCW Act? They don't even come, actually actualize on the ground. So what can we really do to have that happen? And then there are the new labor codes, which also have a lot of implication, on unorganized workers at large, but also women construction workers. And we would love to understand that what is it that, how will it affect the women workers now? What is it that we can ask for? What is it, what kind of leeway do we want within this, that, the rights and are protected of the women construction workers? And it's not really the welfare mode, but really looking at that this is what they deserve, this is what their rights are when they're talking about on the construction site. And today I'm really excited to welcome you all. And I think it's going to be a big learning lesson, almost like a masterclass for all of us. And we have Subhash Bhatnagar ji, who's the National Campaign Committee member of Construction Labour Association. We have Shahnaz, Rafique, who's the National Coordinator of All India Unorganized Workers Congress. We have Meena Patel ji, who's the Senior State Consultant for Aajeevika Bureau. We have Samy ji, who's from the National Center for Labour. We will also get Ruth Manorama ji, who's from the National Alliance of Women. So I think we, Kirtee ji and I are completely excited for today's discussion. And with that, I'll hand over to Kirtee ji, who also has a few questions that, to direct our conversation today. So over to you, Kirtee ji.
I guess he's not here. He has lost the network.
Thank you.
Maybe
Thank
we can-
you. Thank you. Can do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, Kirtee ji, we can.
Okay, fine. No, I think, as Nidhi ji pointed out, I think today is we have some heavyweight people, I think, in this webinar. All of them essentially are lifelong, almost, activists. Subhash Saab, Shahnaz ji, Meena Ben, Fakiri Bhai, Manu, Ruth. I'm sorry, Manu, I call it Manu, Ruth, Manorama ji. And and I think therefore it's an immensely important activity. And what I wanted to convey was this, that this work that we've started now for a while, idea is not to produce one more report, idea is not to kind of write a book, idea is to really see that things happen. Because what is not happening is something hard to understand. Whenever we try to make an effort to kind of go deeper into it, we don't really get a deeper understanding in terms of what is preventing this from happening, in terms of why are women not able to kind of get into skill construction jobs where they have kind of skills in their fingers. And because you have the 5 of you are here, I thought that, and of course you will have a lot to say. I thought 5 of you are here. I thought we would put together 2 or 3 absolutely clear questions which we would like you to answer, besides many other things that you would have to say. So, but the first question is this, and I put it in my personal context, that as an architect, practicing architect for the last 50 years. As someone who essentially have handled large projects, I think construction projects for NGOs, be that 50,000 houses project in Sri Lanka, recently be that 60,000 houses project, in Latur after earthquake, and large number of other projects. And I go on saying this, that as an architect, practicing architect, a sensitive kind of a person, development work. 50 years that I've been, I think, going around the site, believe me, I have not seen 5 carpenters, I have not seen 5 women carpenters, 5 women masons, not seen plumbers, supervisors, contractors, So my first question to you all is, and I could go on talking about this at length, but you don't require that sort of a longer explanation. My question is this, that are you as activists, people who have been working on this subject for a long time, also surprised, or you also don't see it, or you have some good reason to explain why this is happening? So this is my first question to you all. Does this surprise you? Is this something which is very odd? As Nidhi pointing out, if 35% of the construction workers are women, and 99, 95, 96% of them essentially are the unskilled jobs, doing, I think, majdoori, and then I think denied of social prestige, denied of higher wages, denied of a kind of skill promotion, all that. Is this something that is acceptable? Is this so my first question revolves around that. Is this something surprising? Is this something that there are good reasons for it to happen. And I think we would like very much you to answer this question. The second question is something that Nidhi ji and myself had an opportunity to discuss with Skill Development Council people last week in Delhi. And that is this, that if you really look at the supply end of the construction workers in the country, especially the skill end, it's essentially a hereditary business. A carpenter's son becomes carpenter, a mason's son becomes mason. And this has been going on this has been the main source of supply line for skilled construction workers. And it has changed in the last 15, 20, 25 years, in the sense that the whole social system has changed, the urbanization has taken over. People's aspirations are very different. And it's very clear mostly that, a carpenter's son, when he becomes SSC, he does not know what he will become, but he certainly knows what he will not become. That he will not be a carpenter, he will not be a mason. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Now, so what? Another other supply sources, which are like, say, ITIs, industrial training institutions, and even all on-the-job training, I think, arrangements, they're not really kind of very powerful supply sources. So my second question to you is this, that, if you really want women to enter the skill construction job,
Kirtee sir, would you please turn on your video?
Just a minute, it's not on. Just a second. Is it on now?
No, sir.
Is it on?
No.
Oh God, no! I don't know what has gone wrong.
Okay, you can continue.
Okay, so that was the second question. I'm sorry, I think some trouble. The second question. The third question is to you. So my second question is this, that how do you look at this entire supply chain system? And is it possible, is there anything that we could do in order to use that system in order to promote women's role in skill construction job? That's the second kind of question that I have. And my third question is something that I've been talking about in the last two webinars, and I'm very keen that we talk about in this webinar, especially because 5 of you are present, that just I was telling someone in Delhi that 50 years that I've been working in Ahmedabad city, for the last 40, 45 years, have not seen women mayors. But in the last 5 or 7 years, seen 4 or 5 women mayors. And we all know that, I think a large number of villages have women sarpanch. And all that happened because there's a reservation that there is no way you could avoid appointing or electing women as mayors or sarpanch. Now, this appears to me a very interesting kind of mechanism. It's of course a political, I think, is a legal. What, like, say, for instance, and I was talking, Nidhi, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. That suppose if there was a 30% reservation, that there is a stipulation that on all construction sites above certain scale level, 30% of all skill jobs must be, I think, done by women. Would the situation change dramatically? Would the pattern of training change? Would the builder lobby, with the construction agency, with the contractors, I think, try and kind of cope with this? How would the whole scenario change? And I'm really looking this as a kind of political tool, this tool which really could empower people, could create possibilities for women to get into construction jobs. And because all of you have experience, all of you know about positive and negatives of the three things that I'm suggesting, my request is this, that while you say your thing, kindly try and answer these three questions as well, because we are very keen. This is not one more meeting and discussion group. this time we really want to see that something happens so that we move, and there is no reason why it should not happen. So would very much like to hear your views on these three questions. Thank you very much. Nidhi, back to you. I think I want to kind of decide on the sequence of I don't know whether Ruth has joined, but she in case has not, please, I think put her at the end so that she could join a little later. And
yes.
yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, Kirtee ji. So we'll begin with Shahnaz ji. आपके साथ शुरुआत करते हैं, and I'll just give a brief introduction of Shahnaz Rafique ji for everybody. So Shahnaz Rafique ji is the National Coordinator of All India Unorganized Workers Congress. She's a trade union organizer, trainer, and leader with 17 years of experience in planning, designing projects, developing strategies for collective actions of multiple unions at local, national, and also regional levels. She's currently the National Coordinator of All India Unorganized Workers Congress, which works exclusively with informal workers on all aspects of poor income, illiteracy, ill health, gender, inequality, and environmental issues. She's also working as secretary in the Indian National Trade Unions Congress till date. And of course, she has her own personal journey on how did she get into this. And it was lovely to have a brief conversation with her before this webinar. Shahnaz ji, आप अपना video on कर सकती हैं? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nidhi ji, for your kind words and that generous way of expressing about me. And I'm really feeling honored to be amidst the creamy panelists today. And it's an honor to listen to everyone today. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak before Subhash ji, because he is a master in himself in construction workers sector. Now we all know, I will, during my presentation only, I would also take in the three questions which Sir just now pointed out. And they are very, very relevant questions. And I must say that, yes, let's not stop here by just having one workshop or one seminar or a Zoom meeting, because we see that there are all renowned people, all thinkers among the panelists, even I'm sure among the audience also, there might be very well-literate people who are really responsible citizens who are thinking very deeply in these issues. Coming back to construction sector, we all know that it's the second largest industry in India after agriculture, contributes significantly to the overall GDP. Its activity is an integral part of the country's infrastructure development and industrial progress, rightly pointed out by Kea also. The main advantage of this sector is that it generates employment, and in fact, it absorbs unskilled, skilled, semi-skilled, rural labor, and also provides opportunity for seasonal employment. Thereby, it supplements workers' income from farming, and large-scale participation of women workers are there. It's an industry that gives jobs to almost all kinds of work. And presently, it's growing at the rate of around 7% per annum, rightly pointed out by Nidhi ji. With over 35 million people engaged in this sector, women occupy nearly 30% of the workforce. Almost 65% of the women work as construction laborers, since their families are already in the workforce, or male members who are working and are employed in these sites. Now in India, if we see what even Kirtee sir was also pointing out, we see women make up to 42% of new graduates, but only 24% of entry-level professionals are there. Of these, about 19% reach to the senior level management roles. Women hold only 7.7% of board seats and just 2.7% of board chairs. It can even be, I won't say that things are not changing. Yes, it is changing. And at least today, women are there, 2.7 visibility is there. It can be even seen in the ratio of male to female students in civil engineering sector courses, which is 4:1. And even from this limited number of female students, only 20% of women join the construction center, and the rest move on to the other sectors. In the construction sector, the number drops further as only 1 to 2% reaches top level management positions. Now, according to a recent report, there are about 1.46 million construction workers in India. Rightly pointed out, Nidhi ji, about 36 lakhs women workers are women. However, there is largest scarcity of women in the technical managerial roles, particularly civil engineers, masons, architects, structural engineers, electrical engineers, maintenance, supervisory staff, as just 1.4% of women are engaged in such technical roles within the industry, or even lesser, employ themselves in the construction industry. Such a disparity is the result of the gender bias that exists within the Indian society about women working on the site. Now, as per the latest data of the Ministry of Employment, there are more than 40 million workers engaged in construction sector, of which 49% are female. About 65.68% of registered workers are at the age group of 16 to 40, and 35% are above 40. Most women laborers are illiterate. They are married off at a young age. They often joining their husbands in the cities where they are recruited by the contractors. They work as concrete mixers, then diggers, stone breakers, brick haulers, scaffolders, but are never considered skilled enough to work as masons or carpenters. And they are never even trained. They are not even upgraded for that. Yet, even at those lower levels, women are paid less than their male counterparts. And we see one more thing which is very significant is that these majority are then migrant women workers, and they are continued to be denied of the minimum wage and equal wage. They remain unskilled. They lack basic health and reproductive care. They are denied basic safety facilities at work sites. They encounter sexual harassment and abuses at the work site, and they are serious abuses. The work sites lack crutches and childcare center, and are alienated from accessing all government entitlements and services at the destination work sites because of their migrant nature. Female construction workers, they face multiple problems. I'm sure the other eminent speakers would also be pointing out. But what I want to basically stress is these multiple problems arises due to their feminine status and are always in danger of physical and financial exploitation by their male counterparts. There is gender discrimination, serious gender discrimination in the construction site. And even they ruin their social respect and legal rights. Now, a risk analysis of the different sectors have affected COVID-19. It has brought the world to a grinding halt. And in India also, it showed that along with the services, construction sector has been hit most badly, worst, I should say, as per the Government of India's record of 2021. A drastic decline in the construction gross value added, which was minus 49.5%. It was noticed in the first quarter. And in fact, the contraction was highest among all the sectors. The invisibility of the informal workers was added to their plight. No access of reliable information regarding the pandemic, no access to medical facilities, no facility of social distancing or sanitation, no access to food and even water. So employment impacts imply large income losses for these construction workers. The socio-economy recovery from the pandemic still remains very uncertain. And being a trade unionist, I find things are very shady, very vague now. Unfortunately, construction has always been a male dominated and ruled sector, not only in India but across the globe. There is still much work is to be done to fully include women in construction sector and also in the other sectors, of course, to increase recruitment and improve retention of the women sector. जो अभी हम लोग चर्चा कर रहे थे, what we were discussing, Kirtee sir and Subhash sir were also pointing out, and how it can be done. It's a major challenge. It will be a major challenge for all of us. According to we all know, we all are all well-read people. We all know that Supreme Court passed a judgment dated June 21st of registration of the eShram portal. And it was pivotal, most important insofar as welfare measures are concerned. They said it was directed by the court that both union and state governments should complete the process of registration of all informal workers and create a database. But the eligibility criteria for registration of workers on the eShram are different from the criteria of registration of a construction worker under Section 12 of the BOC Act. I'm sure Subhash ji would also agree to this. There is a lack of important data about work conditions, injuries, and other factors that could help a certain appropriate regulations and amendments for construction workers. Additionally, due to the absence of education first and employable professional skills, these workers are exposed to major uncertainties of the job. Limited knowledge exposes them to further risk of going through unscrupulous employment channels, ending up with paying hefty sums to the unauthorized employers also, and being women further, gender biased nature of the sector. Almost all the sectors have that, we cannot deny, because of that patriarchal nature in the society and also existing at the workplace. ये औरतों का काम नहीं है और औरतें इतना बोझा नहीं उठा सकती, but if we see, they lift more heavy loads than the male counterparts who are working over there. So I would not point out on what are the working conditions issues, but I would definitely like to mention that women construction workers are often denied of the maternity benefits. The provisions of Contract Labor Regulation Act, Interstate Migrant Workers Act, and Minimum Wages Act are not adhered by the employers. There is serious gender discrimination in this industry, and women workers denied of equal wages for equal work. We talk so much, we read so much, we listen so much about equal work, pay for equal work, but it doesn't happen in the ground. And it's really very sad. They are paid 20% to 30% less wages than the men. And there is still much work to be done to fully include women in construction, to increase the recruitment, improve retention of women in this sector. Companies must acknowledge this, the gender bias, and work hard to remove such a gap of gender biasness under their corporate culture. So we can take them as one of the stakeholders, and I'm sure in maybe in future we should also invite such employers federation also. The inclusion of the companies should need to develop a training programs, and local mentorship group specific needs of the women should be looked into that. I would like to, if I have time, can I just carry on?
जी बोलिए शहनाज जी.
I would like to quote one incident in NCR region. There was a continuous sexual exploitment cases, and regular cases were coming up to our notice through an eminent brand, and they contacted us, and we went to those companies who were manufacturing this thing, and we spoke to them. We had with the corporate people, their employers, and also to the brand, we had some multi-stakeholders meetings, and then we finally ended up in having some shop floor management trainings. And these shop floor management trainings really help for continuously almost 1 year, we had shop floor management trainings where we only invited those, the tailors, the press people, the packaging people, and women were at the end of the packaging side and somewhere in the ironing section. And in some of the places, they were also stitching. So we used to have these shop floor management training, and it really brought a good impact, and it mattered a lot. And later on, the employers returned back to us that we would like to have some self-help groups created over there, and grievance mechanism committee was formed over there, and the women workers and the male workers of the same shop floor were added into it. So it really helped in certain ways. And today they are going for opening their own credit, self-help group credit account. So it's really good to hear that. So companies also need to develop certain training programs and local mentorship groups specific to the needs of the women. The inclusion of female staff in the hiring process can also make the trainees more comfortable. Positive work environment, need to encourage more women to become role models for the other women, and can form a positive chain reaction for self-realization and fulfillment of the other female staff, as we were discussing with Kirtee ji and Subhash ji prior to this seminar, Zoom meeting. So schools and educational programs need to highlight the value of construction jobs and also other world of work, and for women and young girls, so that they can see the industry as a viable career path. Prominent women participation in the construction industry is important, not only in achieving higher growth, but for attaining an overall social development for the country. Stronger awareness needs to be imparted to women employees about their rights. And apart from these, the employers need to create an environment, most importantly, that is clean and safe to help motivate women. Another method to help facilitate women employees is by improving workplace flexibility, using working models that help mitigate problems faced by women who want to work. But how? How can we go ahead with it? So then there comes the role of the trade unions, the civil societies, the thinkers, the architects, the employers. So let's bring some of the think tanks together, and the trade unionists and the civil societies and the MBOs and the CBOs together. Maybe let's do a brainstorming. And coming back to the question to what Kirtee ji pointed out, yes, it is very surprising to see no women at higher position or as masons or carpenters. No women to see as master cutter in the textile ready-made garment industry. We don't see them. We always find a male master who cuts and he throws the cloth to the female tailors who stitches it. There is no female checker who checks how the stitching has been done. Why? It's feminine clothes that are being made. It's the women who are designer by birth. They know how fashionable, we all know how fashionable women are. So why can't a woman be a checker? Rightly, it really surprises us, because I've worked across South Asia with Industrial Global Union, and I have found it not only in our country, but in Bangladesh, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, even in Pakistan, we don't find them. Yes, I'm not saying that things are not changing. Things are changing. हम अभी बात कर रहे थे थोड़ी देर पहले कि पंचायत राज जब शुरू हुई थी और महिलाओं को जब रिजर्वेशन मिला था, तो कीर्ति जी ने कोट किया, मैं उससे टोटली अग्री करती हूँ, and we all agree to that. When these women were fighting the election, I was there in Jharkhand those days, and we found that the men, their PS, as pointed out by Kirtee ji, their pati, they were actually supporting, they were campaigning, they were canvassing, and the women was just, उसको just kitchen से निकाल कर ढकेल दिया गया था चुनावी मैदान में. She was just pushed into this Panchayati Raj election. But today things have changed, not only in urban but also in rural. We find that these women panchayat leaders, जो आज सरपंच हैं और ward councillors हैं, they discuss. Last 2 months ago, I was in Jharkhand. I have certain self-help groups formed over there, and I had invited those women councillors and ward councillors because if we start from the ward counselling, so it's easier for us to form a pyramidal structure and stand straight very firmly. So we had certain training programs, and I had invited them, and I was really surprised to my pleasure. I just cannot give my expressions. They were so enthusiastic, so much aware about their rights, their entitlements, and how they can get things done at the block level office, how to negotiate and talk to the COs and the block development officers. And I was spellbound. And I then said, just 5 years ago, when I had seen you, and I had pushed her, I had selected her and brought her, that me tum lado ye chunav. And she used to say that, no, I won't be able, I don't know to read, I don't know to write. I said, no, you will learn gradually. And I was amazed to see, and it was such a wonderful thing. So things have changed. Definitely things are changing, though at a very slow pace. However, while the government of India focused significant attention on the economic recovery now, the core components of its recovery, if you find it, the recovery plan, it lacks a vital gender lens. So special measures for women are missing from the government of India's economic responses to the pandemic also. At such a crucial time to address women's need through policy, as a trade unionist, when we feel that our hands have been slain out without the labor laws. These labor codes will not only help promoting more ease of business, but will bring more precarity at the workplace, and the workers will fall into more informalization. As I was discussing with Nidhi also today morning, we cannot stop casual workers now. It cannot be stopped across the globe because of digitalization, the artificial intelligence coming in, platform gig workers jumping into, and then the world of work changing, the supply chain patterns changing. So definitely we cannot stop the contractualization. We cannot stop casual laborers, but at least we can talk about their rights. At least we can talk about the workers' duties and responsibilities along with their rights and their welfare, about their social security. That's the work of the trade unions, and hence also the civil society should take notice to it. And even being a trade unionist, I have no, I don't feel ashamed to say that even we need to change our pattern of working. And also the civil societies have to change their way of working. And earlier the civil societies and trade unions used to barge into the field, chalo bhai company ke andar ghuso, kaun rokega. And things have changed now. I have myself done that 25 years earlier. I had myself done that in the mining companies and metal industries. But things have changed now. You to know the technology, you to know the terminologies, you to know how to organize, how to negotiate. But sadly, 87 and 98 ILO conventions are still not ratified. And which is most important for the workers' rights. How else otherwise the trade unions are going to raise up these issues? Now, at such a crucial time, I should say, women needs should be addressed through policies only. Now, only what can help is the change in the policy. The government of India has decreased the key budgeted allocations of the Ministry of Women and Child Development. I'm sure most of you might have noticed that, with a decrease of 18% from the previous year. So greater women participation in the workforce is important not only for achieving higher growth, we tell, but how will that happen? Unless and until you get it in a policy form, unless and until it is there in the policy, as it is, labor falls in the concurrent list. Union throws the ball into the court of the state government throws the ball into the court of the union government. and that ball, throw and ball goes on. So there is a need for a strong legal framework to address the various health, welfare needs of interstate migrant women workers in construction sectors, I should say in all the sectors. And what are the health rights entitlements of these women workers in construction sector? I'm sure if we see, it's sad that there is almost nothing has been mentioned as such. It's only through the some of the trade union brothers and sisters who are literally fighting their nail to the wall, that at least these women construction workers are getting some wages now. There is an increase in some wages now. So how to avail health benefits once they are hospitalized? How to protect her social security? How to extend and strengthen the social insurances and health entitlements for her? What will be the practical problems while implementing these social security program for them now, presently, when the social security code has jumped in? Hence, all the 28th and 29th, all the major central trade unions and other sectoral federations and civil societies have done 2-day strike. I've thrown out 10 charters of demand, because we want the rights, we want the social security for those workers who are giving their blood to the nation. And what is the government giving back to them? No social security. They are left to die at old age. So it can be suggested, and government should monitor the implementation of judicial decisions on cases relating to injustice against women, and ensure that victims have prompt access to effective remedies. Because what is very important in our country is the implementation part, which is very weak. So organizations should have an internal code to ensure security of women's employees, to take measures to ensure that they discharge their job in a secure atmosphere. There is a need, special need, to educate and train them through mass media, seminars, conferences, through adult education programs, through trade union labor departments, through law faculties. And these can play a very important role in publishing their rights through hard books and newspapers, through legal awareness. Now everybody has a smartphone in their hand, and they all are very active on WhatsApp. So maybe this is also an arena where we can think. There is also need to do everything possible to increase women's employment opportunities and raise their productivity efficiencies, to make legislations result oriented. Infrastructural facilities need to be provided and strengthened. And from INTUC's behalf, on behalf of INTUC, if there is any need that we can do with Sehreeti and INHAF, we are always there with you. I'm sorry if I've taken time, but I just wanted to share out all those pent up things that I have, being a woman worker in trade union myself, and seeing the ups and downs after 25, 26 years. Where am I? And how difficult it is for the women to come up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shahnaz ji. And like we mentioned right in the beginning, the idea of these webinars is also to make a community, right? So we do want your participation, we do want your support, and we intend to bring this up together. And like you rightly mentioned, there's so many challenges which would require internal tweaking also, the way the trade union works, what kind of recommendations we give to the legislations, how can we change our work so we ask for the right things. So I think there's a lot of work internally, and then demanding the correct rights for our construction workers. A lot of work, and I really thank you for giving this, today's discussion a good introduction. And not taking too much time, I'll move on to our next speaker, Meena Patel ji. And Meena Patel ji, से पहले हम बात कर रहे थे just before the webinar, and I think so she would give us some understanding about how the BOCW Act, how the entitlements that are promised in the BOCW Act, how does Aajeevika Bureau actually help in providing those. So I'll just give a little brief introduction about Meena ji for our participants and the audience. Meena Patel ji is the Senior State Consultant at Aajeevika Bureau. She has more than 35 years of experience working with labor and women's organization, and has worked extensively on the issues concerning unorganized labor. She has been on the executive committee of SEVA from 86 to 95, leading its trade union, legal, policy, and campaign activities, both nationally and internationally. She was the South Asia Education Operation Officer for IUF from 96 to 2006. She is currently Senior State Consultant with Aajeevika Bureau, where one of the focus areas of her involvement is organizing construction workers and addressing issues related to their housing, basic amenities, as well as rights and entitlements. And of course, she would give us some understanding about how those entitlements concern women construction workers and women and children actually on the construction site. So over to you, Meena ji. I would love to hear from your experience in Aajeevika Bureau and your work with women construction workers. And of course, going back to what Kirtee ji also mentioned, that is it shocking for you that we don't see women construction workers in skilled work, even though 35% of women are already in this sector? Why don't we see them largely in skilled productive roles? So over to you, Meena ji. Meena ji, unmute कर दीजिए.
Thank you, Nidhi ji, for that wonderful introduction. It's so nice to see all the old friends, including Kirtee Bhai, whom we have idealized when we were in college, and we used to go to his NGO to intern and learn about housing and about poorer communities and how to work with them. So thank you, Shahnaz ji, for that wonderful speech. I think there's not much left for me to say, but I would like to begin by introducing Aajeevika Bureau. Aajeevika Bureau is basically, it's an NGO which is headquartered in Udaipur, Rajasthan, and it works only with migrant labor. Aajeevika has been active since 2004, organizing migrant labor at the source, means from where they migrate, and to the destinations. So we have organizations at the source, which is in Rajasthan, and destinations mainly right now we have started in Gujarat and Maharashtra. So in Gujarat, we work in Ahmedabad and Surat, Ankleshwar, with some more new places which we are adding this year. And in Maharashtra, predominantly Mumbai. And sometimes, as we know, the nature of unorganized, the nature of migrant labor also becomes blurred. Like you think they are from the source and they're from the destination, especially in construction labor. You'll have migrants coming in from Rajasthan, from UP, but also from South Gujarat, for example. I'm giving you an example of Gujarat. So Aajeevika does works at 3 levels. One is to organize them, to give them legal aid, provide legal aid. The legal aid is provided through our legal aid centers, and we have a state helpline in Rajasthan. So it's a toll-free number where you can call if you have a problem, and it will be we do the mediation, we do the counseling, and we also sort of intervene on their behalf with the contractors or the employers. And that's how it goes. And we are also authorized by the government of Rajasthan. So if unresolved cases can also directly be referred to the government. And we also have a national helpline, which is right now active in 4 different metros, where similar calls would come in and we would provide. There's also a direct way of providing legal aid through our various centers in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan. And secondly, we are also very much active in providing social security, getting them access to social security and government entitlements. And thirdly, we also have a financial services for people who want small loans, and we provide those. Fourthly, we also have what we call a STEP Academy, which is actually to upskill your abilities. So in many other forums, for example, what we are doing in Gujarat and Rajasthan, especially since we're talking for construction labor, is to try and assist women to sort of upgrade their skills so that they can get better jobs. And as you know, in construction, a better job would also mean better pay. Okay, so if you look at the nature of the construction workforce, most of them are migrants. In Ahmedabad, for example, where we have a big center, you'll see that they are all migrants, and the men and the woman, the husband and the wife, would work in as a couple. You people know that much better than I do in many ways. So, and the woman would be acting as a helper. So obviously at the end of the day, she may have done the same amount of labor and burned the same amount of calories, but she would still end up earning less. So this is, I think, a very critical factor which we weave in our all on-the-job trainings, and the on-the-job trainings are all basically aimed at trying to sort of get as many women as possible into these trainings, including the men. And we also provide placement services to this kind of women. So we have some successful stories and case studies where the women have sort of upgraded their skills and have been able to negotiate not only better jobs, but even better wages on par with the men. But like you said in your introduction, Nidhi, and I think that was very extensive introduction. There's not much for us to sort of add. I think between you and Shahnaz, a lot of the issues have been covered. But still, I think it would be very important to the question that you posed, that why don't we see women in the construction industry? Why don't we see skilled women in the jobs? I have a rebound question. Why don't we see women anywhere? Why are they invisible in each and every arena of the workforce? Why are they not in the leadership? Why are there not enough women CEOs? Why are there not enough women politicians or trade union leaders like myself, Shahnaz, and Ruth Manorama? There are very few. You can count them on your fingertips. So I think it's the same reasons. And I think, and partially, as a womanist, as a person who believes in the womanist theory, beyond the feminist theory, I would like to believe that it's not only patriarchy, it's also the kind of change that the women have to bring within themselves. We need to do that for ourselves and along with other women. So I mean, it's not strange that we are surprised. I think we should stop getting surprised that there are no women. We just take it for granted. We have to take it as a given that there would be no women. So I think that is one way of responding to it. There are various ways in which we can sort of overcome those. And as you know, they are far too less, and all the effort that we put in, you'll always see only a very few successes. So the effort is far more than the success that you can count on your fingers. Let me, if you can share the screen of my presentation, probably you'll see one of our success stories. These are the women who were trained on the job. They are all construction workers. They were what Kirtee and others in the construction industry would call them like helpers to the men who were working, the skilled men who were doing skilled jobs. And these are the women who trained. And this is a recent batch of our success. And 5 out of these women have got skilled jobs. And they, I think in construction, उनको मास्टर बोलते हैं कि अभी हम लोग मास्टर हो गए, अभी हम आपको मदद करने के बजाय वी आर ऑल्सो, हम लोग भी टाइल्स लगा सकते हैं, हम लोग भी प्लास्टर कर सकते हैं. So you can see the tools which they earned as part of their training when it got over. So I really love this picture. This is a very recent picture, and all of them very dynamic women. Most of them are from Dahod, South Gujarat, working in Ahmedabad. And you can see the second difference in this photograph, the change. The one woman who has changed her attire from wearing a sari to wearing something which is more comfortable. So this is also an aspect of our activity with the women. कि साड़ी पहन के आपको कंस्ट्रक्शन करना है, कंस्ट्रक्शन जॉब पे जाना है, बोझ उठाना है, आपको ऊपर चढ़ना है ईंट लेके, यू आर क्लाइंबिंग स्टेयर्स, तो वो इतना कंफर्टेबल नहीं होता है. और काफी अगर आप देखोगे जो इंजरीज हो रहे हैं कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री में, वो अटायर की वजह से भी होते हैं. एंड तो that is another aspect of the work which I think we all need to recognize, और उस पे काम करने की भी जरूरत है कि वन तो वुमनाइजेशन ऑफ द वर्कफोर्स करो, वुमनाइजेशन ऑफ द स्किल्ड वर्कफोर्स तो हम जरूर करें, मगर हम विमेन के जो दूसरे कंफर्ट इश्यूज है, है ना, जो सेफ्टी इश्यूज है जो अपने शरीर के, तो उसके ऊपर भी हम काम करें। या कैन आई हैव द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। तो जो BOCW के साथ हमारा जो एक्सपीरियंस रहा है वो जो विमेन, हम लोग क्योंकि विमेन की बात कर रहे हैं कि उनके एंटाइटलमेंट्स की बात कर रहे हैं, तो एक मेजर हर्डल जो अभी हमने रीसेंट फेस किया है वो जो निर्माण का जो रजिस्ट्रेशन है। सो दो बहुत ही क्लियर इश्यूज आते हैं जब रजिस्ट्रेशन की बात करते हैं। मैं हिंदी में इसलिए भी बोल रही हूँ निधि जी क्योंकि काफी हमारे जो महिलाएं हैं आज फेसबुक लाइव में सुन रहे हैं ये कन्वर्सेशन, और वो लोग इतनी अंग्रेजी समझते नहीं है, तो आई एम श्योर एवरीबडी हियर विल बेयर विथ द लैंग्वेज थिंग। तो निर्माण में हमारा सबसे पहला जो अनुभव शुरू हुआ, ऑफ कोर्स शुरुआत में जो हमने वो जो फिजिकल फॉर्म में होता था, जो फॉर्म भरना होता था, तो आपको ये तो इश्यू आता ही था कि भी हम लिखना पढ़ना जानते हैं कि नहीं, क्वेश्चंस भी ऐसे होते हैं, कई लोग हम लोग नहीं समझ पा रहे थे तो हम कैसे एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे कि कंस्ट्रक्शन लेबर समझेंगे। ठीक है, वो तो हमने ओवरकम किया। बट निर्माण जब शुरू हुआ, जो ऑनलाइन रजिस्ट्रेशन करना था, उसमें 2-3 हमने मेजर इश्यूज फेस किए। एक तो ये जो विमेन है और मेन दोनों ही वो माइग्रेंट है, तो वो लोग का ऐसा नहीं होता कि आपको जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स चाहिए सब लोग साथ में लेके नहीं घूमते हैं, क्योंकि वो जब माइग्रेट करते हैं कोई एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे काम करने के लिए, तो ऑब्वियसली आपके पास घर नहीं है, आप खुले में रह रहे हो, आज झुग्गी झोपड़ी में रह रहे हो, तो वहां आप डॉक्यूमेंट्स, आधार कार्ड जैसे डॉक्यूमेंट्स लेके नहीं घूमते हैं। और दूसरे के अगर हम एक सर्वे ले ले तो हार्डली 5 से 10% लोग होंगे जिनके पास स्मार्टफोन्स होंगे, तो वो लोग भी डिजिटली वो फोटोग्राफ लेके जाना भी उनके लिए मुश्किल होता है। तो एक तो ये था। दूसरा था कि आइडेंटिफिकेशन कई बार नहीं होते, जो माइग्रेंट लेबर होते हैं दे डोंट हैव एनी आइडेंटिटीज विद देम और दे मे नॉट हैव रजिस्टर्ड आल्सो। आपको फोन नंबर चाहिए रजिस्टर करने के लिए, तो आपके पास वो मोबाइल नंबर नहीं है। तो ये एक दूसरा इश्यू हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन में फेस किया। और तीसरा, जब जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली जब रजिस्ट्रेशन शुरू हुआ, मैं सब बहुत सारे इश्यूज थे, मगर ये 3 मेजर जो हमको हर्डल लग रहे थे तभी, कि आपको सबका रेशन कार्ड अपलोड करना है उसमें, जितने भी नाम है रेशन कार्ड में, तो वो आपको अपलोड करने हैं, सबके आधार कार्ड, पूरे फैमिली का आपको आधार कार्ड अपलोड करना है। प्रैक्टिकल सेंस था कि भाई क्यों करना चाहिए, तो सबको वो आपको फैसिलिटी मिल जाएगी, बट वो पॉसिबल नहीं था। हम लोग ने जब शुरू किया ये फिजिकली करना निर्माण का रजिस्ट्रेशन, तो एक रजिस्ट्रेशन हमको मिनिमम 45 to 50 मिनट्स लेता था। ठीक है, तो हम अगर दिन में 10-12 घंटा भी काम करें तो ह्यूमनली इम्पॉसिबल था कि 15 से ज्यादा लोगों को हम हेल्प कर पाए, क्योंकि वो प्रोसेस इतना लंबा होता था, एंड देन यू नीड हाई स्पीड इंटरनेट टू बी एबल टू डू दैट। सो एनीवे, सो दिस वर द इश्यू। उसका क्या, बाद में हम लोगों ने बहुत रिप्रेजेंटेशन किया, थोड़ा चेंजेस उसमें आया है। तो नाउ एवरीथिंग इज लिंक्ड टू दिस निर्माण रजिस्ट्रेशन। ठीक है, आपको हर साल उसको रिन्यू कराना है ना। तो आपको जो अगर सोशल सिक्योरिटी भी जो मिल रहा है BOCW से, और हमारे लिए खास इंपॉर्टेंट महिला के लिए है कि हमको मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट मिले, है ना, और जो हमको जो दूसरी फैसिलिटीज मिलने चाहिए ड्यूरिंग मैटरनल, जब हम माँ बने हैं या तो हम प्रेग्नेंट है, तो वो सब इनके साथ लिंक है। तो हम अगर रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं कर पा रहे तो ये सब एक्सेस करना हमारे लिए बहुत मुश्किल है। अगर एक्सेस भी कर पा रहे तो देयर आर एडिशनल इश्यूज ऑफ कोर्स, के जब हमने रजिस्टर किया, हम लोग जा रहे हैं, फॉर्म्स भर रहे हैं, तो बहुत ही टाइम लगता है, वो भी काफी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है। ठीक है, हमारे जैसे जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है, यूनियंस है, तो वो मदद तो कर ही पा रहे हैं, तो बट ये सब लिंक्ड इश्यूज है। तो सॉरी, एक मिनट। एंड दूसरा के सोशल सिक्योरिटी के दूसरे काफी बेनिफिट्स उसमें हैं, जैसे कि ओल्ड एज पेंशन है, एजुकेशन का स्कॉलरशिप है बच्चों के लिए, फिर एक्सीडेंटल डेथ का पूरा जो फैक्टर है, इंश्योरेंस है, तो ये सब लिंक्ड है आपके रजिस्ट्रेशन के साथ। सो डेफिनेटली अगर आप रजिस्टर नहीं है तो ये सब आपके लिए एक्सेस करना मुश्किल है। और विमेन के लिए खास इंपॉर्टेंट है कि भाई हम मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट को एक्सेस करें, क्योंकि उसमें हमको काफी फायदा होता है, हमको उसमें से बेनिफिट मिलता है। दूसरा हमारा तो ये जो सोशल, और दूसरी भी हम अगर देखें BOCW के अंदर जो सोशल सिक्योरिटी है वो भी बहुत मिनिमल है। ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि उसमें से हमको बहुत ज्यादा उसमें से मिल रहा है, बहुत ही मिनिमल है। अगर बच्चों का स्कॉलरशिप भी हम देखेंगे तो कुछ इतना खास नहीं है। अगर हम माइग्रेंट लेबर है, कहीं से आए हैं, हमारे बच्चों को मान लो कि हम गाँव छोड़ के आए हैं, तो उतने पैसे में वो पढ़ेगा नहीं पढ़ेगा, उसकी देखभाल कौन करेगा, उसको न्यूट्रिशन मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा, अगर हॉस्टल में भी रखते हैं, तो ये सब लिंक फैक्टर्स है। हाँ, फोर्थ हमारा एक्सपीरियंस रहा कि जो एक्सीडेंटल डेथ का बात है, तो अगर हम इंटरनेशनली जो बिल्डर्स एसोसिएशन का प्रोजेक्शन देखें, तो वो लोग कह रहे हैं कि 2025 में the Indian construction industry will be at the 5th place globally. तो जब हम 5th place पे आएंगे तो कुछ दूसरे 4 million jobs will be added. हाँ, तो अभी अगर हमारा 8.8 million है तो हम उसके 1.5 times बढ़ जाएंगे. So these are the international projections. तो अगर ये लेवल पे हमारा वर्कफोर्स बढ़ने वाला है, तो how prepared are we कि हम महिलाओं की सुरक्षा उसके अंदर वीव कर सके, उसको हम इंश्योर कर सके। अभी अगर हम देखें, हमारे एक साथी है जिन्होंने बहुत ही RTI से डेटा कलेक्ट किया है पिछले कितने सालों का, एक्सीडेंट्स एंड इंजरीज एट वर्क साइट्स, तो उसमें से भी हम देख रहे हैं कि इतने सारे एक्सीडेंटल डेथ्स हो रहे हैं, 1.5 deaths a day. So that's quite a high number. अगर हम देखेंगे तो it's right next to, I think, sugar cane हार्वेस्टिंग में काफी इंजरीज होते हैं, तो कंपैरेबल है, थोड़े कम है मगर कंपैरेबल इंजरीज एंड डेथ्स हो रहे हैं। तो हमने ये साल एक प्रोसेस शुरू किया कि भैया हम वर्कप्लेस सेफ्टी को थोड़ा ज्यादा, हमको बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लगे वर्क प्लेस सेफ्टी में। एक तो कि वहां पे एक्सीडेंट्स होते हैं, इंजरीज हो रहे हैं और डेथ्स हो रहे हैं, ठीक है। तो एक्सीडेंट की वजह से ऑफ कोर्स आपका हाथ पैर फिंगर्स कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ इजा हो सकती है। सो आई थिंक इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एट दैट टाइम फॉर अस टू रियलाइज के there are these accidents and to take note of it. तो कैसे नोट ले, तो हम लोगों ने एक प्रोसेस शुरू किया कि चलो जब भी हमारे पास एक्सीडेंट आता है, लेट्स गो फिल अप, गैदर सम इंफॉर्मेशन, सम बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन एंड व्हाट हैपेंड, एंड काफी केसेस में एक्सीडेंटल डेथ्स हो रहे हैं। सो लेट अस ट्राई एंड गो टू द BOCW एंड से कि भैया वी वांट दिस, यू नो, आप हमको दो जो इंश्योरेंस आपको देना है। So that was one. Second was कि जो accidents काफी time ऐसे हो रहे हैं कि they are because of the laxity by the builder, you know, or the contractor. So for example, there won't be sufficient lighting, or the stairs which they have, you know, kacha stairs which they sorry, Kirtee bhai, you need to mute your phone. So we'll find that the kacha stairs are not safe enough, or there's not enough lighting. So when the women are climbing or the men are climbing, they tend to fall, and then there are lots of accidents. Third type of major accidents were, of course, loose electrical wirings. You know, to electric. And now you are having multi-story buildings. It's not like that you are only building 3-4 story houses or commercial complexes. Now you find them. So there is a lot of use of electrical appliances there. Fourthly, we also found that objects falling on your heads. So that makes the whole worksite very unsafe, especially if it is a multi-story, and most of them are now multi-story commercial complexes. So we started documenting this kind of incidents and accidents and death, and we went to the BOCW, and then we learned a lot about the process. It's impossible to get your accident benefit. आपको वहाँ पे, because RERA has taken certain, RERA or whichever is the body where the builders are supposed to register, they have taken insurance. So immediate जो आप अगर उन्होंने insurance दिया तो आपको पैसा मिल जाता है. But what we learned, which was very critical and which we anyway knew but never associated, was that you can only get insurance first if you are a registered worker. And secondly, the builder who's hiring you is also registered. Okay, so this we found was key, and we all knew it, but because we had not practiced it or tried to implement it, we had this problem. Of course, we know the problems that we face with education and education aid. Can I have the next slide, Nidhi, please? Thanks. Yeah, thank you so much. So, ये जो हम लोग ने workplace का issues शुरू किया, तो I'll go back to that a little more at a later part. One is कि अगर हम लोग 2014 से compare करें आज, तो wages increase नहीं हुए हैं, है ना? Each government is supposed to increase minimum wages every 6 months, but हम construction में देखें तो government wages जो notified थे, I'm talking of Gujarat and Rajasthan particularly, तो wages increase नहीं हुए हैं. जो आपने कहा कि 80% जो mason helpers है वो tribal women है, so there is a whole new set of issues related there. तो upskilling हम कैसे करेंगे, क्योंकि tribal है तो वो भी दूसरे उनके cultural aspects होते हैं, तो उसमें भी issues हमारे आ रहे हैं उसमें. तो जब हम upskilling women labor की बात करते हैं, तो one of the first things that the women told us कि हमको कोई skill job नहीं देगा. हम लोग, if we go and tell anybody कि मुझे plastering आता है, I am very good at laying tiles and doing some other what do you call other skilled job on the construction side, nobody will give us jobs. Okay, the 5 women which we succeeded in getting, it was an uphill struggle, and we could understand what they were saying. So they said market will not accept us. So how do I create a market which is going to employ me if I'm a skilled women labor? So I think instead of throwing the baton at anybody else, it's the builders and the architects who have to ensure that. They have to make sure that the skilled women are given an equal chance. We are not saying give us an unequal chance. We're saying give us an equal chance. So यहाँ पे भी जो workplace में हमारे, so anyway, I'm not going too much into detail because I know we have limited time, but some of the key issues that we would like to focus on. Workplace safety का जो हम बात कर रहे थे, जो accidents का बात कर रहे थे, उसमें हमको एक added issue ये लग रहा है बच्चों के साथ. तो और women, you know, the BOCW says that you should have a crash if you have so many workers. Otherwise also हम crash, हम लोग आंगनवाड़ी बालवाड़ी का बात करते हैं. So you will not find a work site, at least that the 50 work sites that we are active in, that they will immediately agree to allow you to set up a crash, or that they would do it themselves. They should be doing it themselves. They would not agree. Here again, the onus goes back to the builders, the construction lobby, and probably the architects who are more sort of equipped to influence these people. So hum log, we insist on, we want to have a crash so that I can work comfortably, one, and my child can be safe, you know, because otherwise the child will be roaming around. Second aspect of the workplace safety at a work site is also कि अगर हम लोग work site पे रह रहे हैं, or we are staying close by, because nobody wants to go far. If I'm a migrant labor, I don't have a house or a juggi jhopri to live into, I'll be either staying on a work site when there are big construction projects, or I'll be staying close by. Again, the children are bound to move around, you know, and that's very unsafe. So this is the other thing. Thirdly, even if supposing they were a crash, you need a space for women for rest at some times, men and women both. You know, the women need a little bit of privacy to rest, you know, especially on certain days. So we also found that this privacy, worksite safety, children, this is all linked, you know. अगर हम लोग उसको holistically नहीं देखेंगे, we will not be able to resolve it. And again, I think the builder lobby has a big responsibility to deliver here, you know. And also, when you are living on a work site and you are an adolescent girl, you know, 10, 12-year-old, we all know we have issues. You know, there'll be issues of sexual harassment, of advances being carried out. Women themselves face it. So obviously adolescent girls will be facing it. You'll find if they're sleeping at night that people will come and touch you, try to molest you. if they're drunk, then it could lead to you being raped. So there are so many of these issues which are linked to worksite housing, the where you live, and how safe are you able to provide a living area for children, for women. Men ka bhi hai, but I would like to focus on the women because we know it's a big issue. The safety issue and privacy issues are linked. So this is, I'm just putting these thoughts out in the open. I think we all know there are issues, but we have to be very clear that where the onus lies. We can't keep on saying BOCW and the government, because वो builder है, builder का भी कुछ जिम्मेदारी है. तो हम लोग भी जहाँ पे crashes चला रहे, they'll start saying नहीं नहीं आप यहाँ यूनियन नहीं बना सकते हैं, कोई लीगल इशू आया तो हमारे पास नहीं आ सकते हैं. तो it is quite tough to convince them कि let us have e-nirman camps, to camps where they can register for the BOCW, e-shram camps. So ये काफी uphill task हो जाता है, और वहां पे अगर हम सिर्फ बोले कि हम women पे focus करेंगे, it becomes so difficult to work. I think my next slide is on health. We have covered, Nidhi, can I have? Yeah, so we have covered quite a few of the things, but the whole issue of malnourishment, we have started two women's, just sole women's centers only for construction labor. So when they come to us, we have this, we are now documenting the kind of malnourishment issues that they face. Of course, anemia to hai, then you have miscarriages because you are not, you're not eating properly. Because there are no creches, we are not able to link the creches and the Anganwadis to immunization of children. There's no sanitation at the work site. No basic amenities if they're living in the open, like water, sanitation, electricity. So basic amenities which the city can provide, and I think we and Kirtee are working on that in some form. But agar worksite pe bhi hai, to can we do something at worksite where this can all be linked? Health facilities में जो हमारी हम लोग जो महिलाओं के साथ अभी involved है, one of the things that they always tell very clearly is कि हम लोग अगर बीमार हैं, we don't have time to go to the UHC, urban health center पे जाने का हमारे पास टाइम नहीं है. आप लोग मोबाइल वैन भेजते हो, बट वो जब भी उसका मन चाहे आती है. सो दे आर वेरी स्पेसिफिक कि सुबह में नाका पे आए, till 9 o'clock you come at the Naka where the women and the men gather for work, or you come in the evenings, or you come to the place where we live but in the morning and evening. Otherwise हम लोग काम पे होते हैं. आपका आने का मतलब क्या है? Immunization के लिए भी अगर हमको link करना है, तो the time factor is very important to see. And women का health में obviously चाइल्ड केयर है, लेबर है, हाउस वर्क करती है, सब कुछ करती है. मेन भी करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं करते हैं, बट ऑब्वियसली द वुमेन हैज अ ट्रिपल बर्डन ऑफ डूइंग ऑल दिस टुगेदर. एंड थर्डली she'll be having children, she'll be bearing children. So obviously उसका जो हेल्थ है वो तो डिटीरियोरेट होता ही रहता है. And also then this is whole linked to having referral services for maternal health, child care, and stuff like that. I'll go to the next slide very quickly so that other panelists also have time to. You see, some of the things that we have noted, I think many of us have noted, we know that post-lockdown, there has been an increase in migration. So construction labor में ज़्यादा लोग आ रहे हैं. But on the other hand, work availability has gone down. And our rough estimate is about 25%. So earlier they used to get jobs like 20 to 25 days in a month. Now they don't get for more than 15 days. So in construction industry, this has gone down. And what we have realized when after we started the Women's Center only for construction workers is that the women are the ones who are bearing the loss. तो अगर जॉब मिलेगा 2 मैन को, तो दूसरा मैन हेल्पर की तरह से चले जाएगा, वुमन नहीं जाएगी, या तो उसको नहीं ले जाएंगे, whatever. So women are bearing the brunt of this job loss, decrease in availability of jobs. We all know it has led to increase in debt. Food security is becoming a problem. Whatever little land that they own, वहाँ पे इस 2 साल से production food grains को उगाना भी मुश्किल हो गया है. So these are the very critical concerns that we have taken note of in the last 1 or 2 years. other issues. I know all the panelists are very well versed with it. But what I would like to leave this panel with as a thought process is, we have this fantastic laws. We have this law on construction workers. One thing that we have not ever insisted on implementation is the workplace safety issue. And I think that's very critical. It's there in the legislation and we have to insist. I think more than anything else, that is the first thing that we have to do, especially for migrant labor. हाँ, क्योंकि माइग्रेंट लेबर एक तो बाहर से आता है, ऐसा भी नहीं है कि वो तुरंत हॉस्पिटल जा सकता है, कि एक्सेस नहीं है. और वर्कप्लेस सेफ्टी में माइग्रेंट लेबर का जो निगोशिएटिंग स्किल होता है वो हमेशा कम रहता है एज कंपेयर टू लोकल लेबर, because the vulnerability is different. If you're living on a work site, again the vulnerability is very different. So this, I think, is a very critical thing that we all need to start looking at. Of course, worksite housing is another important thing, but to me, even more critical than that is that we have this legislation. We are not insisting that we should follow it. And we have this fantastic international convention C167, which is on safety and health for construction workers. And we have not insisted that the government of India ratify it. So unless हम लोग ratification के पीछे पड़ेंगे, government हिलने नहीं वाली है. So, or if you look at the recommendation of this, which is part of this convention, you'll see fantastic policy recommendations which the government can do as regards women. And ये जो recommendations or conventions होते हैं ILO के, they're binding on the employer. We always forget that. They're not only binding on the government, but they're binding on the employers to do it, because they are also signatories to this convention, because ILO is a tripartite body. And I think this is the crux. If you want anything to be done for women, for entitlement of women, entitlement of migrant women construction workers, तो हमें ये सब जो international हमारे पास बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस है, जो कन्वेंशंस है, जो सबने साइन किए हैं, एक्सेप्ट किए, फिर घर आके हम भूल जा रहे. I think it's time to wake up and take note of this. I'll end here. Thank you so much for listening to me. I think I took much longer than the 10-15 minutes I was given.
Thank you, Meena ji. I think that was incredible. I mean, your presentation itself and the points that you made were really good. And it's also, somewhere you touched our Dukhi Rath. We have been trying to work or get the builder associations or the industry to really come and talk about these issues, and we're completely losing on that. So it's becoming difficult for us to even bring this issue forward. And informally, when we speak, a lot of times we've heard that, it would increase our cost by 20% on a construction site if you make us give all this. So I think there is a lot of work that, please.
Yes. No, I'll tell you, this is the argument that they've used with us. I'll tell you, just starting a creche, a daycare center at a work site, it takes you maximum, if the builder was to provide everything, including space and food and everything, and one helper and a caretaker, it doesn't cost him more than 50,000 a month, maximum. Okay, so that is 6 lakh rupees a year. If the work site is going to go on for 2 or say 3 years, it's not more than, say, maximum 20 lakhs. It's nothing, it's peanuts. Right? So you give them these figures. We are constantly trying to develop this figure so that we can use it with them, in favor of the women. So it's 20 lakhs, Kirtee bhai, I'm sure each and every builder can afford. It's nothing, it's peanuts, उतना घूस देने में यूज करते होंगे वो लोग.
Or more. I mean, we've even calculated, like per person आपको कितना पड़ेगा. There have been those kind of conversations, and in fact we had like earlier we had a person who did the entire housing unit, and she gave the builder कि इतना होगा, बस अगर आप 700 रुपए देते हो, आपको 1000 रुपए देना उस जगह को. So ज्यादा खर्चा नहीं होगा, उसमें आपकी housing भी हो जाएगी, sanitation भी हो जाएगा, सब कुछ हो जाएगा. But I think it's very important, like you mentioned, that the employers need to be held accountable for it. And we need to make an apparatus really for that accountability.
Sure.
So even though we have the policy, that's not getting implemented on ground properly, really. So I think
I think one of the reasons why they don't take it very seriously is because this is all migrant workforce. Nobody misses them. it's यहाँ पे, because I think the migrant nature adds to the issue of not being taken very seriously, is my guess. I stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I think this adds to the problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely this intersectionality which comes in, and especially for women workers even more. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Meena ji. I'll also proceed further, and Subhash ji, we would like to have you next. Subhash Bhatnagar ji, आपका वीडियो ऑन हो सकता है? हाँ जी, thank you, thank you. एक मैं आपका थोड़ा सा इंट्रोडक्शन पहले दे देती हूँ. Subhash Bhatnagar ji is the national campaign. He's from the National Campaign Committee for Construction Labour. He holds LLB from Delhi University and BA MA in Economics from Sri Ram College of Commerce. After practicing labor law from 79 to 84, he founded the coordination of National Campaign Committee for Central Legislation for Construction Workers in 86 under the chairmanship of Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer. This resulted in enactment of two landmark laws, the BOCW Act and BOCW Welfare Cess Act in 96. He has served as member of Delhi Building and other Construction Workers Welfare Board across multiple periods and has been the national convener of the National Platform of Domestic Workers since its formation. So Subhash ji, आपसे तो हम मतलब आपके वजह से ये act आया and इतने सारी हमने उसके बारे में बातें करी है. So I think from you, we would love to understand, like an umbrella, like an overview about this act, about what are its challenges and implementations, what are the the good aspects about it, and how now it needs to be probably relooked also in comparison to labor codes and gender perspective itself.
See, let me start with the response to the three questions raised by Kirtee Shah ji, and thanking you for giving me opportunity to be in a webinar with Kirtee Shah ji. We got a lot of guidance from him in the beginning of the campaign in drafting our legislation, refining it, etc. And also in the implementation phase when the law was enacted by the parliament and it just started. So my answer is that it is not at all acceptable to the team of the National Campaign Committee that women should remain permanently in the unskilled work. I think to first question, this answer is enough. In it lies what we need to do. Second thing I would like to take up regarding skill development is that a action plan and a welfare scheme set was circulated by the central government in response to the Supreme Court judgment on the campaign committee case in 2018. But soon after issuing a guideline to the state governments to implement the Supreme Court judgment, the government came out with the 4 codes, which suggested that the BOCW Act itself will be withdrawn. Although till now it has not been withdrawn, it is continuing. And there is a transition provision in the code that it will continue till the codes are imposed. The third, here what I would like to say is that one of the suggestion is that about 10% of the current expenses should be spent on skill training, skill development also. What we would like to plead is that a substantial share of it should be spent for the women's training, the women's skill upgradation. The suggestion he gave on 30% reservation for skill work for women, whether it will make an impact. Yes, it can make an impact, but not in the current situation. Because in the current situation, what is missing is that even the construction workers working on the construction sites of the central government, most of them are not registered. It is not the construction workers who are registered largely. It is the construction workers who are living, who have been approached in the residential sites that they are registered, who are working on smaller sites, etc. And with the rampant corruption in the working of the construction workers, we will say that there is a substantial number of the non-construction workers. In Delhi, we have the worst example to see. In last few months, from 6 lakh the applications of registration have reached 16 lakh. 1 million people have applied. Why? Because on Supreme Court order, on High Court order, the government had to pay 5,000 rupees to each and every registered workers because of the COVID relief. That they changed the construction workers identity card into a labor card. Even the chairman, the deputy chief minister will call it a labor card, not a construction worker identity card. So each and every labor is welcome to get registered and try to claim it. Although separately, they have published a small advertisement, 2-inch, 3-inch advertisement, that those who are non-construction workers, if registering, will be penalized. Nothing more than that. They are facilitating the registration of non-construction workers, and that is what formed the core registration thing. I have slight difference also with the statistics which other people have quoted. I'm very thankful that you gave opportunity to Shahnaz, Rafique ji and Meena Patel to talk before me, because the type of statistics which they gave, I'm not immediately prepared with it. But I would like to say that our estimate of the campaign committee is that in India, we have at least 100 million construction workers, 10 crore construction workers. And we were able to keep track of the data which was being supplied by the state governments and the state boards to the Supreme Court until 2017, just before the judgment. We had the data that about 3.5 crore workers, means 35 of the 10 crore workers % were registered. Last year in the epidemic, we saw the relevance of the board. All the boards put together could send rupees 500 crore rupees through the banks to 2 crore registered construction workers. So that way, the board have proved, that have established that they are the only possible viable in the unorganized sector to provide relief and social security, etc. Now, let me say a few things on the 4 codes. The 4 labor codes which have been introduced, 2 which are directly affecting the construction labor, the Social Security Code and the OHS code. There is one good thing about them is that when many other boards, welfare boards, like salt workers boards and few others, they have been suddenly closed down without going to the parliament, without taking proper procedure on the things enacted by the parliament. The administrative orders have closed it down. But construction workers lobby helped at least in retaining them. So besides there being a unorganized sector workers board in every state, they have continued with the BOCW board also in every state and union territory. But other than that, there is no relief. We feel that the system they are going to follow of the registration of construction workers on a central portal, that too the electronic online registration. We don't think that it can cover the entire construction workers properly in the country. And the worst thing is that they have done away with the workers' contribution, annual contribution. They have done away with the workers' identity card. So once the entire data is only with the central government, who is allowed to revise it as and when they want. So they can decide any number of workers being duplicate. The workers of Kerala, maybe they are found duplicate in Manipur, so they are deleted. They will not be able to do anything because neither they have identity card, nor they have any other proof of registration because they are not paying the contribution. And the new definition of worker, where they have mentioned the worker who are working on construction site, which is less than 50 lakh rupees, will not be considered as construction workers. They will be treated only as unorganized sector workers. This definition is a serious matter, and the safety clauses almost all the safety clauses have been deleted. Nothing is there. There is only one very foolish thing, that the person who has difficulty in hearing will not be employed, except this single line. There is no provision on the safety clauses, which were the core of the BOCW Act in the current code. So in view of this, what the campaign committee is doing, we are demanding restoration of the BOCW Act. We are demanding a repeal of the 4 codes as far as construction workers are concerned, like all 10 of the 12 central trade unions who are demanding it, because we feel that the present system of the 4 codes cannot reach benefit to the unorganized sector workers, to the construction workers. Although much is not mentioned in this, but some time back, a model welfare scheme, a mission papers were circulated by the central government. They were later withdrawn, but they gave an idea what will be coming out in the 4 codes. So what we analyzed and what we understood, that government is intending to divert substantial fund of the BOCW boards to central social security schemes, where a substantial part, more than what board is earning per annum, 1.5 times of that is going to be paid to different insurance companies for providing social security. We feel that this system of providing social security by the insurance companies will not work in India. If the money was to remain with the BOCW board, they can provide substantial security over a much longer period of time. But if insurance companies are imposed, we are sure then if not in 5 years, then in 7-8 years, the entire fund which exists today with the BOCW boards will be exhausted. They will no more have fund to give to the insurance companies. Therefore, no construction worker will be entitled to get any social security from the BOCW board. So we have to take it very seriously. Only time will tell what will succeed. As far as women construction are concerned, we feel women construction workers with the present technological change are losing jobs at a very fast pace. The technical changes are basically taking place in those fields where unskilled women workers were working, carrying of the material, etc. What can be done is that the women workers who are already members of the BOCW board, at least through them, their retention, their upgradation into skill training should be started as a priority, and it should be ensured that they continue in the industry. If they are losing unskilled jobs, then they are trained to get a skill job and are provided a skill job, and that is made a precondition which can start only after ensuring that all the workers who are working on the major construction sites of the government of India, which is the biggest, which has the biggest share in giving cess to the boards, they should ensure that they are registered. Once they are registered, then they can ensure a sort of reservation even for women construction worker in the skill job, which can start with a smaller percentage, not immediately perhaps 30%, although they are entitled to 50%, but it should start slowly because they are to be trained, they are to be accommodated, but they should not be moved out of the board just because they are not no more having the unskilled work. Those who are registered in the board should continue into the board, and to continue, they must be accommodated into the skill job. That is the only way out over a period of time, which will help the women construction workers in our country to get skilled. I think that's all I would like to say.
I think जो सुभाष जी आपने ये लास्ट पॉइंट बोला वो तो काफी रेलेवेंट है अगर हम विमेन कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्कर्स के हिसाब से देखें, और अगर हमें विमेन कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्कर्स की पार्टिसिपेशन रखनी है women participation भी देखनी है लेबर में. हम बोलते रहते हैं कि 18% या 16% women participation है. कंस्ट्रक्शन सेक्टर वो है जो सबसे एग्रीकल्चर के बाद सबसे ज्यादा औरतों को एम्प्लॉय करता है. अब उनको इतना थ्रेट है निकलने का बिकॉज ऑफ वेरियस रीजंस. तो एक तो ये बहुत ही अर्जेंसी है ये देखने का, द एंटायर व्हाट यू सेड अबाउट रजिस्ट्रेशन, getting the identity cards and ensuring that the women in the construction sector who are already there are there, are retained, are upskilled. I think that's very important. And the entire aspects about, the new labor codes, about probably how, already the BOCW Act is completely getting diluted in this present context. It's quite a scary scenario, in that sense. जो इतना सेस कलेक्ट हुआ है इतने समय तक, इतनी कोशिश करी है सबने कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्कर्स को रजिस्टर करने के लिए, वो सारा मेहनत इस नए लेबर कार्ड में काफी डाइल्यूट हो रहा है. सो आई थिंक आपने सही पॉइंट्स हमें बताए. अब अगर हम आगे बढ़ सके थोड़ा, तो आई वुड लाइक टू कॉल एनपी सामी जी. आप हैं यहाँ पे? बकरी सामी जी आप हैं?
Yeah, good evening. I'm N.P. Samy speaking from Bangalore.
Great, thank you.
Are you able to hear me?
Camera?
Yes. We are able to hear you, sir. Is it possible to have your camera on? Can we have your video on?
Yeah.
If it's possible. Great, thank you so much, sir. I'll just give a quick introduction of you, though I know a lot of people already are well aware of you and your work. So Bakri Samiji is the General Secretary of the National Center for Labour. He's the currently, which came into being in May 1995 in Bangalore as a National Confederation of Labour Organization and Unions in the Unorganized sector. He's also the president of Karnataka State Construction Workers Central and the National Federation of Construction Labour. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. And I don't know if you heard our initial discussion. Kirtee started with 3 questions, and we are today really talking about why we don't see, even though the construction sector has a lot of women, we don't see those women in skilled productive roles. They're largely in drudgery work. So is it surprising to us, is it acceptable to us that we don't see them in higher productive skill jobs, which earning better wages, even though they are a big contributor in the construction sector? Secondly, we also spoke about that within the construction sector, there is a hereditary way of learning and skilling. In that context, and like Subhash mentioned, in the context of technological changes, where do we see women construction workers? And thirdly, what is it that we can do, as civil society, as members of trade unions? What is it that we can do, and what can our ask be, at a policy level, at a legislation level? Asking for a reservation by the government, especially like Subhash mentioned in, let's say, the projects of Government of India, and they are largest employer also in the construction sector. Can we have reservations for women in higher skilled work? Even though they will continue doing the other drudgery, helper, mason kind of work. So can those reservations really help? And how is it that we need to equip ourselves? So what should our ask be, and how should we go about it? So that's the context of our discussion, sir, and I'll hand over to you to take it further.
First of all, I would like to say hello to everybody. Thanks for Kirtee bhai for inviting me. I'm able to see Meena ji after decades, and Subhash and Kirtee, I am seeing them. I saw them before COVID. Through this, I'm able to see them, and thanks, Kirtee, for this opportunity. First of all, I would like to negate the fact that women are in considerable number in construction industry. Let's say that couple of decades back, that's let's say 20, 25 years back, you can see women around 20% or maximum 22 to 25% of women working in construction sites, as helpers. But that number is, gradually has come down because of the mechanization and, the machines have reduced their, work. Apart from that, if you look at the scenario now, after the COVID, it has come down further. Including migrant workers, you don't see many women, migrating with their families and working in the work sites after COVID. So the number has considerably gone down because of these reasons. And before going into other, and also I would like to taking this scenario into consideration, their contribution to the industry, I know it's not, you can't say quantify their contribution and say they contribute solidly to the industry because of the number of people working. Very basically, they do unskilled work because there is no systematic promotion of the skills. Now, if you look at the construction industry as such, even the men, who joined as helper, over the period of years of work, slowly he becomes semi-skilled, then he becomes a skilled, then he becomes a senior mason, then he becomes a labor contractor. It's kind of, it's not a man is not trained in a vocational training center and comes out with a degree or a certificate or a diploma and becomes a mason or a labor contractor or a subcontractor. It is more, most of them comes with, becomes masons and skilled senior masons through their experience. But unfortunately, when it comes to the women, their working in the industry is very shortly. Again, for many reasons, suppose unmarried woman joins the construction work, and once she gets married, she might not continue. So our contribution in the industry will be around 2 to 3 years. And suppose the migrant workers, husband and wife, coming from interstate migrant workers, they might not, lady might not work like her husband in the same industry, or both of them might not work in the construction industry, and they may go into agriculture or some other unorganized sector to take out their living. So there are many reasons why women are not able to become skilled and highly skilled in this industry. And one major thing I will say is there's no systematic effort by the government or by many technical institutions and organizations, to promote women from the unskilled, from the very helper status to semi-skilled and skilled status. So that is another major problem we have to take into consideration. I would like to share our own experience, our union's experience in trying to promote this, upgrade their skills from a helper to a mason. In the year 2002 and 2003, we have trained 2 batches of women workers with the help of ILO. We try to promote, upgrade their skills to the level of a mason. Now, each training was for 3 months. apart from the technical skills, we also try to teach them life skills, like little bit of literacy, at least to the extent of reading newspaper headlines and you know um, bus boards, where the bus comes from, where it goes, very basic literacy and arithmetics, definitely arithmetics, because if she has to be a mason, measurement and other things, it needs a bit of arithmetic knowledge, and also, speaking knowledge. I will not say public speaking, but it's to a certain extent we'll say, because they are coming from the union side. It's kind of a public speaking also. So apart from technical skills, we also try to develop, impart life skills to these women, and no, they were able to, with all the constraints, see, first of all, in South, I will not talk about North. In South India, the dress itself a big constraint for a woman to become a mason, or for them to stand on a scaffolding and do plastering, or whatever work involves, or a painting. It means that dress itself constraint. So, and also the cultural limitations, and the support from the family. We have to bring these women for training, apart from paying them at 200 rupees every day. I'm talking about 2002 and 2003. Okay, 200 rupees is a decent wage per day. And we have to talk to, more than motivating the women, we have to motivate their husband or her father or a family members to send them to this training. So there was so much hesitant in the families to, even those, why any one of them will be a construction labor in their family. So there are a lot of constraints we saw bringing them to this training programs. But with all the problems, we are able to, in the 6 months time, we are able to roll out around 60 women workers as trained. I will not say fully qualified mason, but at least semi-skilled mason, I can say semi-skilled mason. And okay, well, we have trained them. Who will give them a job? That is the big issue we faced, because that time their wage, a woman worker wage, was around from 125 to 150 rupees. And the semi-skilled person was getting 350 rupees. A mason was getting from 400 to 700 rupees. So if we want her to become a mason, she got trained, and she has to get some kind of employment in some work site, but nobody was willing to come forward and give her that kind of a wage, because of their own mental blocks and things like that. So we have to motivate our own masons, labor contractors, and explain them the training part of it and the curriculum and their capacity to do it. And some of them came forward and employed them and gave them 400 rupees wage, from 150 rupees to 400. That was a big leap for them. So but unfortunately, in spite of giving them the certificate signed by the union and ILO, and many of them dropped out again. The reasons for marriage, and once they get married, they go to their villages and neighboring states, things like that. So there was a discontinuation of this, in spite of we are following it up systematically, where they are working, how much wage they have been paid, all these things. And we also bring them once in a month for a meeting and to share their experience and things like that. So to a certain extent, I will say it was one step ahead. I'll not claim that's a great thing we did, but it happens to be the first program in the south by ILO with a union, jointly doing training program. But in spite of all these things, no, I will not say that I cannot claim that it was a great successful program. No, because of many obstacles, mental blocks, this men had, and the industries also says that there is not much scope the industry provides them to this kind of. It's a very hard work. Masonry work is an hard work. Whereas the same construction industry, the plumbing or electrical work is comparatively lesser strain. The physically there no need to strain so much like masonry work. So another important thing, because of construction industry, now it is little better. But when you go back 20 years, 25 years back, there's so much of sexual abuse and sexual exploitation, prevail in this industry. All this Mason jokingly said that before the owner inaugurate, we will inaugurate this house, then only they will give to the owner. Things like that. So directly abusing the women workers. No, it's part of that. That's another reason why, see, the migrant workers as well as the local workers, you see husband and wife working, or if a man is working, they have come from a very poor family, he is accompanied by a sister or something like that. So knowing all these things, they don't encourage women from their families to work in this as a construction worker. That is another realistic scenario in this industry. So with all this experience, we are also trying to promote women membership in the unions, but not we are able to achieve big target. Making women memberships also so difficult because of their irregularity and continuing as a construction worker. The problem also, see, there is no encouragement, motivation from not only from the family, from the state also. They don't they have programs. For example, they say skilling India. Now the target is 500 million, but how much they are able to achieve? Just 3.1 million people have been gone through some kind of training through this Skill India. The target is 500 million, but only 3.1 million people have been trained so far. So there are other reasons for that, why they're not able to really even progress even bit. So there is no systematic plan, motivation, encouragement for women to become construction worker, to upgrade their skills in the construction industry. And during COVID, of course, you have seen, construction is the largest affected industry, number one industry which was affected very badly. And of course, construction is the second most dangerous industry next to mines, because accidents are very common. According to some ILO data, 6,300 people die every year in construction industry. So after COVID, the number of women working in the construction industry, including the migrant workers, become drastically, it has come down. drastically. The reason you find what we found that construction industry is no more attractive to women workers because it's hard work. Secondly, they have to work in the rain and the sun. Third, for the hard work, the wages they get is not no, they don't get a decent wage. Whereas they found, or we found, that they have been attracted towards domestic work. Many of our women members have gone into domestic as domestic workers, because in domestic workers comparatively it's a less hard work. They work in a secured environment, and they also get a decent wage. Working in a woman worker working in 3 or 4 houses in a day, she gets far better wage than the construction work. As everybody knows that one of the major problem in construction industries today, a well-trained, experienced mason gets, at least in Bangalore, 1,100 to 1,300 rupees. Yeah, helper, a male helper gets around 400 to 700 rupees. A woman worker gets 500 rupees. The problem is they don't get a continuous employment. That's a well-known fact, everybody knows. In the construction industry, continuous employment is the biggest problem. Otherwise, a mason who gets 1,100 to 1,300 rupees, if he gets 26 days a week, his earning is constantly good earning than a graduate or a postgraduate what he gets by joining a factory or office. So, but here there's no continuous employment. So that's another factor which discourages women, apart from his hard work, exposed to sun and the thing, and once they start the work, sometimes till that cement mixer is over, they have to work. That maybe after 7:30 sometime. And whereas the domestic work, there is comparatively a fixed time. Even the work is not finished, they just walk out from the domestic work. So, and also working in 4 houses, apart from some decent wages, they also get other benefits like festival time. Each one gives clothes, and there are so many other benefits. I don't want to explain due to constraint of time. So, what is important here is that the women who are working in the construction industry before COVID, they've been gradually shifted their employment towards domestic work. That's a very important shift in the employment pattern of women construction labor. So if women have to be in the construction industry, right now it is around very big a percentage of around 10% of women may be in construction industry. So the state has to take extraordinary effort, and the technical institutions have to take extra effort to train these women as plumbers, as electricians, as carpenters, so that they can manage well, and also they can also earn a decent wages. Otherwise, they're working as masons. Even if they're trained, it's going to be a difficult task because of the continuous, their own continuity of in the same employment in the industry. So there are these constraints are there, and hope there's some change takes place in the policies of the government, the policies of the labor department, and the policies of the so-called skilling India initiatives, so that women are because as previous speaker said, construction industry is the one of the industries which absorbs the unskilled labor. It is the major provider of employment next to agriculture. And it is the ever expanding industry. We call it as a evergreen industry. So it's going to be the evergreen industry. So another couple of years, our construction industry is going to touch $3 trillion. It's going to be a $3 trillion industry. So there is a lot of scope, women working in this industry, not necessarily as the profession of mason, but in other professions, like as I said earlier, as electricians, plumbers, carpenters, which gives them more wages and some kind of a security. There is a definite scope for women to do a decent job, decent employment. Construction industry can provide a decent employment for women workers. There's definitely scope in this. With this, I just conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samiji. I think that was quite interesting for us because we've been talking about women in the construction sector, and like you rightly probably mentioned, that many of those women are now moving into the domestic work sector, and especially after COVID. And I think a good strategy of recovery needs to be brought in place to see what can really be done there. And even ourselves, we've been discussing that within the construction industry itself, are there certain job roles which are more gendered or which are more friendly for women workers? For example, we had, earlier on our earlier webinars, we had some NGOs which have trained women workers and are already contractors and working on site, and they were telling us that women are very good in, let's say, doing plastering, women are very good in tiling, women are very good in POP work. So there could be certain roles that women can explore more. We also got someone who was a plumber who went for World Skills, under the Skill India mission, and she herself was telling her story. But I think all of them were also mentioning the challenges of the industry, how industry is not ready for even skilled women. So even though there were women now who are getting skilled in these trades and they're ready for the hard work or the heat or all of that one assumes challenges to be, but they still feel that the industry is not ready right now to absorb them. With that, Manorama ji, we would like to have you next, and if you can have your video also on, Manorama ji. Ruth, Manorama ji, are you there?
She's there.
मनोरमा भाई, आपका वीडियो नहीं आ रहा।
I guess she got disconnected.
अंकिशा, मनोरमा जी नहीं है।
She just joined back. Just a minute, we can wait for her.
Okay, we'll just wait.
Ankisha, what is the problem?
She's there, but it seems like she's unable to connect.
She's not able to connect.
Yeah, I don't know if she's able to hear us or not.
Can we call her?
Yeah, maybe you can continue. Yeah, we can call. Meanwhile, we can continue.
हाँ, आपके कीर्ति जी, आप उनका नंबर या तो अंकिशा को दे दीजिए।
Hello.
Yeah, because I think she got disconnected. I don't have her number.
She shows is connected, but I think you're not able to. Okay, there There she is.
Ah,
See her video.
Thank you.
Hi, Ruth.
Still people are interested in hearing me.
Of course.
Pretty much. So we've saved you for the last. So all the interest is pretty much there.
2 minutes, 6 o'clock. I thought in between I'll talk and then go to the meeting. Anyway, I'm here now. Thank you very much for INHAF and also to you in organizing this meeting. And I'm able to, join. You don't need to introduce me. Many of them know me. And I've been one of the oldest friend of, Kirtee and his efforts, working in Bangalore. I'm so glad that I'm here. And I think this is wonderful on your part, like, on the 31st of March, like everybody is like, pushing themselves to celebrate the International Women's Day. I think it's very important that, you're concerned about the women in the construction industry, especially. Secondly, it's also, especially women masons. So like, there were different pictures have been given. One is to protect, the women workers as masons. Another thing is to protect the labor itself, to protect the industry itself. And then, some are talking that is, it's not possible for women, to get in. They can be somebody else in the, in the industry, not as women masons. I think, what is important is like, what is very important is the gender gap in, is an all India indicator of development. So there is a glaring gap, between the men and the women in that particular industry. And India is among the top 20 nations that have the most gender gap. And like if you measure the gender gap in economic participation and opportunity, number one, education second, health and survival needs, fourth is the political rights. In fact, in political rights, we have gone ahead. All the other, indicators that I mentioned, we are far below. Many poor development countries like Asia, Africa are ahead of India in closing the gender gap. It is possible, they've shown it, okay, but in our country it's still difficult. I think what is needed, I will not talk much of of the difficulties that the construction workers are, the older regime of laws and the new regime of laws. We know how difficult it is for the construction labor, being unskilled workers. Like it's not that men are also very skilled. Over the period, they themselves, through the traditional method of handing over from a father to the son, the industry is flourishing. Like in other countries, we do not have a proper technical education on any job related to construction labor, right? Like if you're an achari, when you say achari, it is the what you call the carpenters. The fathers taught the son. They did not go to any school. Like if you are in Germany, the carpenters are trained. The carpenters are trained. So that is the situation. It is not possible in India. I think what, if I could say certain recommendation, one side is training as a, the skill, training skills completely lacking in this whole industry. Like, you don't need, big degrees in order to build really. Like, you have other set of people are there, architects, drafts, men, other people are there, to do all the work, engineers. But this is the people who really build. So what is needed is a kind of a policy environment is needed. Like where to put these people, what kind of training skills you give. So you cannot say men can do that, women cannot do that. Women can, working on the war flights nowadays, and it is possible for women mason easily to be a mason, women carpenter to be carpenters. It is possible. I don't think women have no capacity or inabilities or lack of capabilities. How do you build it up? Like, our education is not occasional guidance motivated. Like, they never give us any skill. When you are out of 10th standard, we are like on the roads. You have to pursue another set of education for another 2 years, 4 years, to become something. After BA or BSc, again you have to seek for something else. So I think that a policy environment where if girls want to work in the industry, whatever the job, like before going to ITIs and this technical education, where the boys are getting trained on engineering skills and Microsoft and also like many other things. I think women could be given the training. Dress is not a problem. Women nowadays wear pants. You don't need to wear saris. So I think this is all like a kind of patriarchal values, in a traditional society that we are. Women can do this, women cannot do that. Yes, we may have difficulties like during menstrual period or when we are when women are pregnant. There may be slight difficulties are there. That time, like women can be given an alternate jobs. So I think that a policy environment to make women as women masons or whatever they like, because today, like the in that industry, that there is in all industries decline of employment for women. Yeah, all don't need to go to a very highly technical jobs. If women are able to earn an adequate income per day by doing work, I think they should be allowed to work. So I think in a traditional setup that we have, like the patriarchal tradition that we have grown up, need to be really challenged. I even made a statement saying that promoting a gender sensitive work culture in construction and in engineering is a must. Yeah, in the gender, if we need to really break the biases. I'm being a feminist and also leading the working class movement for the unorganized sector. I feel that we need to promote gender sensitive work culture in the construction work as well as in complete engineering. I also say we have names like while somebody working as in the drafts making, you call them draftsmen. Like the names are also very male dominated and patriarchal. So I think we need to have this overall if Kirtee is really interested, this is what he might have to write. And I would also say that removing it is needed to improve the skills for organizing, networking, lobbying for rights of informal sector of workers. You just don't make them a simple masons. You don't make them a simple who construct anybody road. I think you should also have to have skills in talking, in mobilizing, in organizing, networking, because your topic is rights. Giving rights and entitlement to the women workers. How do we do that? The skills, alone, technical skills alone is not needed. It is skills to organize. It's a skill to network like any other group. If the doctors have problem, they immediately join together and mobilize themselves. Nurses mobilize themselves for their rights when their rights are, violated. I think, and also it's so necessary, strengthening women's awareness vis-a-vis their social, legal, and political rights. It's very important. I'm talking, entirely not only from the technical point of view, but on the whole, the human rights, perspective. Strengthening women assertiveness vis-a-vis their, legal and political rights. just becoming like a man, like a mason, like a man. It's not enough. I think women need to assert themselves, their social, their political rights. I remember in Bihar, one of the, a woman was breaking stones, had become, part of, become an MP from Bihar, and she was part of the, team which, talked about, construction labor, and she was flying in the air, and then she was talking with everyone, with the ministers, the difficulties of the women workers. I think, women need to have these rights. And improving, I think, moreover, what is necessary also, just, you cannot work with workers on one-to-one basis, like, getting wages or improving the skills alone. You have to have, improving the socio-economic conditions of the disadvantaged groups in the informal sector. Who are the women workers in the construction laborers? You have most of them. I'm also bringing the caste, angle. These are the tribals and, tribal women and, Dalit women who do not find any job. They go along with the workers, and the migrant workers' wives, they also go along with the men. So it is the disadvantaged community need, a lot of support. You have to look at women's masons' work in a very comprehensive manner, because it need a comprehensive, solution to that. And training capacity building play a very important role in women's empowerment. It brings out the latent potentials in many women who need such a motivational and support. Like, I agree that, if 100 women are saying that we want to be masons because it fetches more salary for us, it fetches, dignity for us, it, gives us an identity. Like, many women farmers fought like that. Yeah, women farmers, they were not even considered as, farmers. And even, women in the, what you call, women in the fishing industry were not called, they were all called, fishermen. Fisherwomen are the ones who take the baskets and go and sell in the market. So I think that, they need a lot of, support and motivational. An adequate, kind of, equipped nodal resource center are important for sustaining and mainstreaming the moment of change. Change will come only if you set up, nodal agencies for training, for equipping them. Today, you don't need any women workers at all. Even men workers are not, taken for granted. If you have trained them, even equipped them, like in the industry, they can do any work. Accidents are there, but you give them, enough of caution, enough of protection, they will still do that. So I think there will be a nodal resource center is important for sustaining and maintaining the moment of change. Women, once organized and equipped with the necessary skills, I believe, and the most, potent agents, they will become the most potent agents of change in communities, especially in the rural and the urban centers. So I think that, necessary skills, they have to be equipped with. It's not very, it's not very difficult. Only if you have a political will, I think, women can become masons. But, the government is not interested. Government is not interested in upscaling their skills. Like, before, a lot of women go for construction labor because, they used to get more money than working in the houses. Now, since, the workers are reduced, they're all, becoming domestic labor. So I think that consistent focus will need to be provided on training and capacity building for broadening the, broadening the base for, competent kind of work. I think these are really possible. I think while you are making women equivalent to men workers, you are breaking the biases. You are breaking the stereotypes. As a feminist and a worker, organizer, it's very necessary for me to break the patriarchal norms in all industries, in all work. And so there is an alarming demand of skilled labor. This is an this is also an account of globalization, changes in technology, as well as work procedure. Just working as mason, building houses, no, it is not necessary. But I think that upgrading them to understand the latest technology is very important. Uh, so this means that government has to invest in the skill development, training, and education of their welfare. It's so necessary. So I just have some of these. This was there in the second labor report. What is it called? It is called the report of the National Commission of Labor. It says that 7 key existing future challenges of India's labor is challenging because of globalization, and there is labor competitiveness, of a replacement of put the other light. I'm speaking from the car.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. We can hear you.
Fine, you can hear me. So I think that there are key challenges in Indian labor where women really appear, in a large number, are challenges of globalization. Secondly, of labor competitiveness, of redeployment of surplus human power from agriculture to manufacturing, to service and trade. Fourth is of recognizing labor as human capital. I think that's a very important point. You should not think they occur cost, but I think they recognize labor as human capital. And and for Kirtee, it's like it will sound very knowingly. Slums are people, slums are not places. It's for me, it sounds like that. Recognizing labor as human capital. The younger people today, daring to do anything. When there was no job, so many skill upgradation, upscaling, MSME, where will the women will go? The boys are without job, where the girls will go? I'm saying that women can be, can be trained. Of continuous employability of labor. If you want continuous labor, you need to, upscale and, skill them up. Utilizing the infrastructure for education and training. We have, good, infrastructure available everywhere, like, to train women. To train women in every state is a responsibility of the state. So people who want to be in that industry, can be trained. And not only, I would not even stop us thinking about women, masons, but in other, skills. And then, therefore, absorption of new technologies by labor, using education and training. I think we need to use formal education and training to train them, before that. Yeah, I think schools, colleges, and you can go up to, and I think it's possible. The metro that the Bangalore city is having, the chief CEO, a Japanese woman, she's very short. She's very short and standing then on ordering where to go, with the maps. Like, she came and, spoke in the United Nations meeting in New Delhi for us. Like, I was, because she's surrounded by tall men, and like, she will order them what to do, what not to do, how, like, in actual construction. So the masons, like in she's an engineer, and what engineer, I do not know, system engineer, something technique, whatever they're called as. But I think that women can go up if only we have political will. I'm saying that in a place there is a decline of employment because by doing women masons, and I think you can really empower most poorer women in the country. These are my, so we need to construction labor, top to, bottom to top, top to bottom, break that and, see to that. That is really an human, capital to build not only homes, not only public, but also, everywhere. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ruth ma'am. I think that was very interesting. And I think it's also become a global narrative of really calling labor human capital, and every country now has a human capital strategy. And within that, a large component of it is about skill development. And it's encouraging to see that you also believe that it has a role to play. And importantly, what you mentioned about, the skills of negotiations, the skills of networking, the skills of asserting your rights, I think that needs to be included in the training programs. Largely, that doesn't happen. Over to you, Kirtee ji. I think we've had like a very interesting discussions around multiple aspects. I'll ask you to come in now.
Yeah, thank you. Am I hearable?
Yes, audible completely.
No, it's been a fascinating discussion. As a matter of fact, we have overshot by an hour and 5 minutes, and which only an indication how wonderful this discussion has been. And I don't think there's a scope for summary because everyone has spoken very beautifully and lots of ideas have come up. But in the context of work that we're planning to do, the few things that come out very clearly, that is this, that there is consensus, if there was ever a needed, that women in skill construction jobs could be many more, could be doing much more, could be earning much more, could be much more respectable. And whichever way we look at it, it's a very unjust system. And I think there is a great scope for changing it. That women are capable, that given a chance, women will do a very good job. There is a consensus on that. There are also good reasons given why it is not happening, why it's not working. And starting from patriarchy to, I think, the way construction sector works, kind of biases within which things happen. There also is a kind of good analysis into why it's not working. What appears to me at this stage of this journey we're working on for the last 3 months is this, that there are not too many solid ideas, and I really want to say solid ideas on correctives, on how do we change things, how do we change order, how do we kind of, whether we look at it as supply end, whether we could look at the demand end, much is required to be done to find ideas, to shape the kind of strategies where this could be done. And what is also very clear is this, that construction industry has changed dramatically over the last 50 years. Technology has changed, education has changed, international partnership has developed, international funds have come in. There have been huge amount of changes in ancillary kind of industry. Materials have changed. Also, worker status has changed. We see, I think, women playing much bigger role in leadership. We see large number of women-centric films. So there's so much has really happened. But that, unfortunately, has not necessarily reflected in more women in skilled construction jobs. I continue saying that, what I started observing as an architect almost 50 years ago, I see almost the same sin. that if I didn't see women 50 years ago when I started as architect and when I started work, in NGOs and got into big scale construction work, 50 years down the line, I have not really seen much change. But everyone is convinced that it should change. And therefore, what I'm saying is this, that today's meeting has brought out, there are all of you are very important resource people. You obviously have thought about it. You all have lots of analysis, and we are going to kind of be after you, going to kind of engage with you in much solider manner. We're going to kind of ask questions to you and along with you to others, and try and kind of engage you in this process much more. It's not that you are not engaged, you already are engaged, but we are taking a kind of a smaller slice and working on it. And therefore, I think we're going to be, and I'm making that promise on behalf of this group, which is working on this. Nidhi is part of it, INHAF is part of it, and the others, who are working on it. And on their behalf, I'm saying we would follow up on this. We are very keen to not only produce good reports, but we're very keen to see that things happen. I also wanted to kind of tell you this, that almost 3 months that we have started work, we are almost ready to kind of put together a small little interim kind of output in terms of what have we learned, and we would reach out to you very soon, not only in terms of what analysis is, but what the ideas are, to kind of seek your input into those ideas. So having said that, let me kind of come back to the last part of this session. Thank you, Subhash ji. Thank you very much. Every time I talk to you, you're such a incredible inspiration. In fact, the statistics that you provided and the indication that you gave us in terms of what kind of data you have, we are going to reach out to you pretty soon to seek more information and data on this thing, because it will enrich this whole process very much. Shahnaz ji, I heard you today, you're extremely articulate. It's wonderfully articulate. And there's so much that you thought about. You also, I think, going to have a very, very competent and platform you work on. We're going to be kind of, be after you with more ideas. And I see that, you vibe with this concept very much. So thank you, Shahnaz ji. Meena Benji, I don't know, you reminded me of my old days. And when seeing your work for a long time, it's very brilliant work. You see all sides of the picture. And of course, we are now with a very wonderful organization, Aajeevika. And this will certainly produce a lot, and we would reach out to you to work more. Pakri Bhai and Ruth Ben, you're part of INHAF. We have friends for 30, 35 years. Every time we meet Pakri, every time we meet Ruth, either in the meeting or outside, it's a great joy. And I think it was wonderful that despite a short notice, you accepted to join this meeting, despite the fact that Manu had other commitment, that you came and joined. We really feel very obliged and very thankful to you. Nidhi ji, this is a wonderful journey together. We have a long way to go, but we are making good progress. And let me kind of thank Sneha, our colleague, who works very hard, and I think kind of brings out insight from the information that we get, whatever we hear. And Sneha is doing wonderful work. And of course, I must thank my colleague, Ankisha, without whom webinars would not even be possible. Ankisha had been looking after this webinar for last almost a year. And puts enormous amount of hard work and brings lots of discipline and fulfillment to this job. So thank you very much. This is not end of the story as we started, which each one of you, I think, is important resource person. We will follow with you and try and learn more and try and kind of put together something which we think is useful, which would then, I think, improve a lot of the women in the construction skill areas. Thank you very much. Thank you.